it's even as
Yeah.
bad as far as a root system.
What was this again here?
Pennisetum,
Pennisetum. Okay.
and the variety is probably Hamlin.
Yeah. And these are all weeds
Yeah.
in here, and it's throughout.
Here. But you know, then there's this.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least there, it's not as viewable.
Right. Right. And that's a magnolia as well.
Yeah.
And these are honey locusts over here still? Okay. And what about those there? Paper bark maple. Okay.
You know, if Harry selected those.
Yeah. Yeah, he's, like I said, he's planted a lot of these. Yep. Now, any of these susceptible to any specific diseases or insects? Or not? I think that's what his choices are geared towards. Something that's very hardy. Yep. Okay. And the weeds
and
throughout
here you've got the rudbeckia, the daisies. You know, which are just wonderful. But, you know, if the chrysanthemum weed is not dealt with,
right, it's going to choke it all out.
It's going to be like that.
Yeah.
And this may remain, but it's going to look,
right.
You know, and the wood chips aren't going to keep it out.
No.
You know, it'll keep the annual weeds out.
Right.
It's not going to keep, you know, the invasive
right.
out. You know, and here's another thing, this thistle. It's got the same kind of a root system.
Thistle?
All of this stuff, or a lot of it, has probably come in, you know, with topsoil.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because when you get topsoil, you never know what you're getting.
Right.
And, you know, to have such an amalgamation of different invasive weeds, you know, look at these lovely grasses, but, you know, you can't see the beauty of those grasses when you've got this terrible thing.
Yeah.
And then when it goes to seed, you know, and the little thistle heads blow all over the place, then it just
overruns everything.
Yeah. Because certainly the concept here is fabulous. You know, when you're in the building looking out of it.
Right.
But now I don't know what my guess, Bill, is this is probably a soil thing.
What's that?
Because these two acergriciums are nowhere near as healthy
as these. Right.
And I'm sure the quality of the nursery stock, you know, was equally good.
Right.
You know, when it came. Because they probably were all about, you know, 2.5, 3-inch caliper trunks. And you can see how much these have grown.
Right.
Since what we were saying about 2008, 2009.
Well, the lake, I think the lake was done at the same time Lakeview, because they continued on in here. It was just a
these
massive.
have really prospered, and these really haven't grown at all.
Right.
You know, and I would say ultimately when these get taken out, which probably they'll end up being done because they're just
not thriving. Yeah.
Gradually, you know, there's something soil-wise. You know, I'm not going to say it's because of root area concentration is limited, because it's not much different really than here.
Right.
And, you know, the footings for that are way out there. We don't develop heavy root systems like most maples. That's why I love some of these trifoliate maples versus like Norway maples and silver maples that just get so darn big and overpowering.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Trifoliate maples with 3 leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And there are several different species of trifoliate maples.
Okay.
Acer Griseum is probably the most sought after because of the bark characteristic.
Right.
But others have fabulous. Well, this has good fall color too. But none of those get much bigger than about 25 or 30 feet. You know, versus 60 or 70 feet.
Right.
For a long time.
Sweet gum.
Yeah. Liquid ambar. I'm sure it's on your list.
Uh-huh.
And it's suffering both by leaf color.
Uh-huh.
The leaf color is
Very lightest
yellower
green.
than it
Yeah.
should be,
Yeah.
especially over on this side, and that's probably the vascular movement up the tree, but that's all hypothetical. And there's a lot of dead wood in it. This
Yeah.
is probably a tree, you know, that should be deep root fed. And deep root feeding, you know, arborists will sell that to a client every year. Now that's a lot of crap.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to have it done every year. But I generally think like every 8 to 10 years, for really stately trees that you don't want to lose, it's a good idea to deep root feed.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to the feeding, it's the aeration of the soil, you know, that's helping a lot because the roots need to breathe. And this is probably rather compacted soil. You've got asphalt here.
Right.
You know, you sort of name it. You know, just the little bit of digging that had to be done to put that seat there, you know, probably damaged some roots.
Right.
And, you know, that would be one. You know, I wouldn't say the same for that maple, you know, or that oak over there because from this distance they look perfectly healthy.
Right.
But, you know, when you get an arborist in and they deep root feed, you know, 8 or 10 trees, then it's cost effective.
Sephora?
Sophora.
Okay.
And Sephora typically
Yeah, what's up with that?
get these cankers.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Wow. Is that a fungus in there?
Yep.
It's all up through here, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Are we going to lose that tree then? Is that an
Well,
indication or is it normal?
It's somewhat normal, and sometimes they live perfectly well with it.
Yeah.
Other times they do not. And when I see the amount of growth that these are pushing out, you know, they seem to be, you know, very happy and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not seeing any on that tree, but I certainly am on that one.
Right.
And sometimes it almost looks like mechanical injury,
Right.
you know, from way back when with planting. But you're not usually going to get mechanical injury way up here.
Right.
You know, you get it down there.
And that one back there, these two, right here. That's not the Sephora, right?
What I think that is? No, the foliage doesn't look like it. It's a lilac.
A lilac.
A Japanese tree lilac. Syringa reticulata.
Same as the other one there?
Yeah, because see that one's got flower.
Okay.
heads coming.
Yeah,
They'll-
I see them.
they'll have white flowers on
Okay. So a Japanese lilac?
them. Japanese tree lilac.
Tree lilac. Okay.
It's a very good tree for its resistance to, shall we say, city-type environments,
Okay.
as well as like parking lot areas.
Mm-hmm.
It's not messy. Ivory silk is the best variety. I don't think this is it.
Okay.
Especially by looking at the habit of that one. Because that's not typically the way they grow. That's why I was,
It's almost like a shrub.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. Even though it is the worn lilac,
Yeah.
that is.
And is
Now that's sort
this
of
larger
not-
one the same as
That's
this?
a magnolia.
Magnolia. Okay. Okay.
So yeah, right up at the very
Oh, yeah.
far
Yep.
right
Yeah.
corner of that cornice.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get back up in there and spray that. This here, very defined, like star-shaped leaves on
Well,
this
it's
tree
a
here.
Japanese maple.
Japanese maple. And how
But
about
I've
that?
never seen bark on a Japanese maple like that.
No.
No.
And I thought
Right.
typically Japanese maples were of a reddish leaf.
No.
That's a red
No.
maple?
That's a Japanese red
maple. Okay.
Whereas this is probably the straight species of strictly Acer palmatum, meaning the palm-shaped leaf.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen huge Japanese maples, but I've never seen them with that sort of ridge-like bark.
Right.
That's got to be really old.
And that's a proper cut on that? Or is that going to lead, that cavity is going to eventually cause...
It eventually could, you know, I don't know really how one might better deal with that. You know, certainly they cut it on an angle, which was a smart thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe you would have cut it a little bit lower down, just more for aesthetics than anything.
Right.
But
Could you seal something like that? You can't cover it.
it would just actually probably decay even more, you know, because you've already got, you know, the fungal organism in there.
Right. Do you recommend tree wound spray?
No, not at all.
No. And why is that?
Because basically all it does is, for one thing, it can hide a multitude of sins by improper pruning, because then you don't even realize where the pruning cuts were made because it's black.
Mm-hmm.
But more so, it doesn't give that wound the opportunity to breathe and what's called compartmentalize. And with proper pruning done at the right time, any wound on a tree can be compartmentalized or walled off, meaning internally, you know, you can see a callus form over years on a wound and seal it over.
Mm-hmm.
But internally, you have this walling off of this injury that doesn't allow any disease or any insect to penetrate internally. And by restricting the airflow with the tree wound paint, you're actually reducing the ability for that tree to compartmentalize. As well as, if you don't come back and retreat it every few years, and that seal begins to crack, and then you get water behind that cracked seal.
Right.
It's sort of like a tooth decay kind of thing.
It's kind of like humans if it, with a cut.
Absolutely.
If you keep
It's
it
just
covered,
like it.
it takes longer and longer to heal because it's...
It's just like
Yep.
it. Absolutely.
This young tree right here, what is that?
Linden.
That's another linden.
Mm-hmm. Looks very happy. Somebody pruned it nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like there had been mulch around it. I think as much as you can, like every year or two,
Yeah.
after the mulch disintegrates, you know, put another 1.5 to 2.5 inch layer of mulch on at least a young tree.
Mm-hmm.
Is certainly beneficial for two reasons. Obviously, the roots don't have to compete with the grass that takes water and any nutrient in the soil. But more importantly, when they come around with the